All right, everybody. Jared here. I want to apologize in advance for the sound on this recording. We went to the Libertarian Party Rally that happened at the state capitol the other day, and Spike was gracious enough to invite us on the bus afterwards so that we could do an impromptu interview. We weren't prepared for an interview, so all we had was a cell phone. The recording is pretty rough audible wise, and we are I tried to clean up as best I can, but a lot of good things were said. I like Spike, very coherent, and just give it a listen and let us know what you think.
And now, welcome to the Tooele Happy Hour Bus Special Edition.
Yeah,
Here on the bus.
we're on the
bus.
We're on the tour bus, and it's nice, but I mean, I expected
Lobster.
stripper poles.
Stripper poles? No, we didn't. Yeah, we went a different way with it. We went without the stripper
We went
poles.
professional.
Yeah, we went professional. The stripper poles are on the outside.
Oh,
Because that way we can generate some revenue for the campaign. No, it's we've been having a lot of fun, and we're in obviously Salt Lake City right now. We started just giving understanding of how much terrain we've covered in the 2.5 weeks that we will have done this part of the tour. I started in Cincinnati, Ohio, just under 2 weeks ago. We've hit almost every state between Ohio and California. We've worked our way back through Nevada and now here in Utah. We're going to go back through Nevada again to see Reno. Then we're going to Oakland, Eugene, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and ending on Labor Day in Seattle, Washington. I don't even know how many states we will have hit in that time. And this is just the first leg. We are pretty soon going to be finalizing doing a second leg as well. We're having a fantastic time doing it.
nice. And now is Joel also hitting a control area on her own?
Yeah, so the way we've been doing it is kind of a divide and conquer to try to hit as many of the states as possible. What we're showing is, while the other parties and their candidates are hiding in their basements and their bunkers, we're out talking to the people. So Joe did the first part of this leg of the tour, and then I took the second leg that I'm doing now, and she's been campaigning by plane in other places. Right now she's in Alaska. And she'll be coming back here, I think, tomorrow or the day after, and then or coming back to the lower 48, and then after that, shortly after my leg ends, she'll be taking the bus again while I go to other places by plane, probably New York and New England next for me. And then once she's done with her couple of 2-3 weeks, I'll be taking the bus again and doing my next round of it. So between now and November, we're going to be hitting a lot of places. We will have visited more than likely probably all 50 of the states plus DC.
Major cities, multiple cities in some of the states too.
We try to do a combination of major cities and also, just everyday cities with everyday Americans in them. Obviously, in some of the states that are less populated, we kind of have to hit the major cities, so that it's kind of a central point for everyone to hit. Yeah. But yeah, we've been going everywhere.
Yeah, that's great. And what's your impression so far out? Like you have the Q&A. What's been a commonly asked question? What's something that seems to be asked in every Q&A?
The two main ones that commonly get asked are about, I would say if I had to pick two. One would probably be just the cost of living in general, the cost of healthcare, the cost of education, the cost of higher education and student debt, the cost of just general cost of living, cost of housing, cost of food. Because of the Federal Reserve and all the other disastrous monetary and economic policies that the Republicans have given us, it's increasingly unaffordable for the average American to live.
Yeah, regulations. Just to build a house, the regulatory compliance to drop that. I mean, here in Utah, it's probably around $10,000 before you cut ground. It means they build a bigger house so they can absorb that additional cost into a bigger loan. If we drop that off, we can start seeing, starter homes built again, because there's no starter home built now.
Because the cost is too high to even bother doing that. And that's
Yeah.
a lot of people
You
realize
can't
that.
absorb.
You
You can't absorb 20% of the cost of the home in the
in just
initial.
the compliance,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. And that's just housing. It's in everything. In every
Yeah.
aspect of our lives, there are
Everything.
regulatory burdens that just drive up the cost of things. So that's probably the single biggest thing. And it's obviously asked a bunch of different ways, but it's basically, why is everything so damn expensive, and how can we change that?
And how do you convince people? Because the correct answer is we're going to contract the government into that and let that mature itself through a free market system where everyone expects the government to somehow
Provide it for free.
magically correct it when that's what they've been trying to do and it keeps getting worse.
I think you have to start from the root. So when people talk to me about healthcare, I don't immediately say, well, if we get government out of healthcare, the costs go down. Because we're like, what? That doesn't make sense. Instead, you take them on the journey for why government is so expensive. We talk about each step that the federal government and state governments took, thanks to the cronies who put those politicians in office, to drive up the cost of healthcare, and how at each step these things happen, and how studies show that so much of the cost of healthcare, the vast majority of the cost of healthcare, up to 75%, is just the red tape and the bureaucracy.
Regulatory retraining of the nurses and the medical personnel to learn how to use the new computer
All of
program.
that. When you go into a hospital and you see one doctor, 2, maybe 3 nurses, like 15 administrators. That's not because the hospital needs all those administrators. It's to keep compliance, and that drives up costs. It turns away doctors. More and more doctors are retiring early, or being fired, or not getting into the medical field, going into something else because they're looking at the cost of higher education to become a doctor. They're looking at the cost of compliance. They're looking at malpractice insurance, and they go, I'm not going to make any money doing this. And so now we have a doctor shortage, which causes the prices to go up even more. And so we see that time and time again. And so you take them on that journey and you explain how the reason that the costs are going up is precisely because of government involvement, and how removing government makes those costs go down. And if you take them on that journey, if you empathize with them and show them that you actually care about their position, instead of just immediately saying, well, the free market will provide, because that sounds like a throwaway. It sounds like I'm saying, I don't care about your issue, I just don't want to have to deal with it. But if you show that you care, that you understand, and that you have a way to fix this, then a lot of people, even if they don't sign on immediately, it at least plants a seed that we have good ideas
Well,
and
they'll
that we care.
start looking and noticing, wait a second, and like every interaction they do, they'll notice there's a little extra here that doesn't
I was
apply.
never paying attention to, exactly. And then the other question that I get asked a lot is questions related to how do we combat people saying we're throwing our vote away? And that's usually just frustrated libertarians. And the thing is, throwing your vote away, wasting your vote, that's voting for the same policies and the same candidates who got you here.
That's true.
Simply put.
That's true.
So in Utah, when I try to talk to conservatives about voting libertarian because they're not satisfied with Trump,
Right.
One of the biggest obstacles I have as an individual with that conversation is abortion.
Yes.
So I've had someone tell me, "Oh, I can't vote for libertarians because they're pro-abortion." Now, could you help me walk someone who's very conservative through that argument as libertarian?
Yeah, so I'm not pro-abortion, and I think that there are ways that we can reduce the number of abortions by introducing. We see the two biggest. Well, first of all, let me take a step back. Republicans sell themselves as pro-life, and they say that they're going to end human abortion. Oh, it's been facing.
Oh, it's been watching someone else.
It's been watching
Okay.
nothing.
That's all right. Keep going.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. All right, but here now it's facing the right way.
Yeah. All right.
I'll just hold it.
Perfect.
We're back in business.
Perfect. We're back in business. Hopefully, everyone was enjoying that
Yes.
that scene. It's like when I debated Trapped. So yeah, with abortion, Republicans sell themselves as pro-life. We're going to end abortion, and then they get into office. And what do? They fund Planned Parenthood with your tax dollars. So clearly, they've been lying. Libertarians will end federal funding of Planned Parenthood because you shouldn't have to pay for it. Now, I personally am against abortion. If my wife and I were to get pregnant, we would have the child. We've talked about that together many times. We would not have an abortion. The problem with getting government involved is it moves abortion into the black market, but that's just the beginning of the problem. If we give 14th Amendment protections to unborn children, to fetuses, to embryos, whatever stage they are, if we say at the very moment of conception that they are now a constitutionally protected human being that has all the same protections as the rest of us, not only does that ban abortion, It also bans women who've had multiple miscarriages from having another kid, because now they're committing negligent homicide. They're engaging in an action that already resulted in constitutionally protected American citizens being killed or dying, not intentionally, but dying, and she now has every reason to think that it could happen again. And now, if she tries to get pregnant, that could be considered negligence. That could be considered an actual offense. And if that child dies, now it's considered negligent homicide.
Or say a car accident, if they wanted to tack on a charge.
If there's a car accident and a pregnant woman, suffers a miscarriage, then someone can be tried for murder. There are so many bad things that could happen. You could end up with a situation where the government has pregnancy licenses to make sure that you're doing everything you can for your pregnancy to be. I mean, every time you think of government getting involved in something because of good intentions, what ends up happening? They create this massive regulatory super state.
And then they hire more people.
And then they hire more people and makes it worse. And meanwhile, women are still getting abortions. They're just getting them illegally, which is empowering cartels and giving them more money.
It's bringing violence into that.
It's bringing violence into that.
I'm pro-life in my personal life.
Yeah.
But I just want to see, if you're going to have an abortion, don't bring me into a party.
That's your thing, exactly.
I just don't want to pay for it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to march about it. I want the doctors to be able to do it. I want them to have a door if you want privacy to do it.
But it's none of your business.
It's none of my business.
Exactly.
And that's,
we agree 100%.
That's my whole thing.
And we also recognize that the two biggest reasons for abortions that happen, economic reasons. There are often women who already have children. These aren't baby murderers. They have children. And they recognize, they go, I don't think I can afford another kid. So for economic reasons, well, we deregulate the economy. We allow for more thriving and prosperity. We add the rungs back to the economic ladder so more people can move their way up and upward economic mobility. There will be fewer abortions from that. The other thing we do, get government out of adoption. It is harder to adopt a child in the U.S. than in any other developed country on earth. Why?
Expensive too.
It's expensive too. Why do that? There are people who want to meet the children that they're going to raise and parent for the rest of their lives. Why on earth would we not allow that? Why would we stop that when we know that increasing adoption leads to fewer abortions? These are the way we reduce abortions without creating a black market and a bunch of other unintended consequences as a result.
Yeah,
I like that answer.
Yeah, and everything just gets safer and facilitates more. The child can get adopted while it's still young before it moves that age. With foster system is more likely.
Exactly. Yeah. And all the abuse that comes from that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then that furthers abuse down the line. Have you guys thought about doing like an education DVD, something that, or a website where you could educate regular people, not like just for running, but just for
just on issues of libertarianism.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are doing these online education.
Yeah.
I think the party needs to step up and start saying, we're going to have small classes. Like, you can go there and pinpoint, I want to learn how to do this, but,
So I've actually been working with a group of libertarians where we'll be making some animated info videos like that. In the meantime, if someone goes to YouTube and looks for Spike Cohen and subscribes to my channel, I have a ton of, usually anywhere from 2 to 6 minute long videos on all different subjects.
Really? So I listen to your podcast.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, my podcast is great for that too, but the podcast is long form. So
that's
you're watching an half hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, or whatever. This is actually, a lot of it is snippets from my shows and from my other interviews on other people's shows. There's probably a clip from Toilet Happy Hour on there, more than likely, where I've talked about different subjects, and we've taken that snippet from that. So it's been a great resource. A ton of people during these bus stops have said, when someone's asking me about healthcare or education, I take them to your YouTube channel, and they're like, oh, wow, I never thought about it that way. So that's a great resource. What we actually are, it was actually something we were working on prior to my getting the nomination. It's kind of had to be put on hiatus because this is taking up 100% of my time. But I'm actually working with folks on putting together like animated infographics.
So you're not able to podcast while you're out on
No, I'm still podcasting, but this is specifically what you were talking about, almost like just seminars on different subjects. Yeah.
Some way to tell people, hey, we're libertarians and this exists.
This is why.
There's literally people that come up to me that said, I didn't know this even existed. Yeah. And it's amazing to me, but it happens, fortunately.
A lot of people are very unfamiliar with the Libertarian Party. And the basic message is, freedom through personal responsibility.
Freedom through personal responsibility and taking the power back. Because it's one thing to say we want people to be able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but we also recognize that that's impossible when the bootstrap fee is $50,000, and the government has made pulling yourself up by your bootstraps so increasingly impossible that people end up becoming reliant. We have a safety net where people have been pushed off the ladders trying to get out of it, and then they're stuck in the safety net, and they remove the ladders, and then they're stuck there, and then a lot of people often go, look at them, they're lazy, they need to live within their means. No, every opportunity they had was taken from them. During the Q&A today, I talked about how I've gone to housing projects and talked to people. Almost everyone there has a business, but they can't grow it into something that they can actually live off of because they're having to do it illegally.
They can't advertise.
They can't advertise their plumbing services or roofing services or their hair braiding services or catering services because they can't afford the tens of thousands of dollars it costs to get the licensing and everything else to do it legally. So they do it small. It's enough for them to have some side money, but not enough for them to build something and thrive and build up their community. Why would we not let them do that? The reason is because the people who created those regulations were given those regulations by the cronies who want to make sure no one can compete with them.
Well, they were. Well, a personal family member got run out of his 45-year business because a lobbyist came to Utah and said it'd be a good idea if we make this, more regulatory. And he got run out.
It happens every single day.
Now he's working for the government.
So it's protectionism. It's an old game.
It is the oldest game in the world, and it is sold as protecting us, and it's not. It is the opposite. It protects cronies at our direct expense.
Yeah.
And it needs to end.
I don't see a lot of value to government in my life. And you drove through where we live. Not a lot of government touches us where we live in a positive way. Where I understand why the inner cities may have a more positive outlook on the government because they see more positive government.
They really do. And that's the thing. The people that are protesting right now are saying what? We're being killed. We're being rounded up and thrown in prisons and given a felony record. The government sold drugs in our communities to pay for clandestine operations overseas. They don't like the government. They've been told that everything's been taken from them and that the only answer is to tax the wealthy to get them the things that they need to survive. These aren't ideological big government socialists. They're scared just like we are. They're scared like everyone else. And they say, you know what? If you're going to give me the stuff I need, fine, give me the stuff I need. But when I show up to these protests and these rallies and I say, hey, listen, you and I both know that those same Republicans, those same Democrats and Republicans are playing a game, and they're using you as a pawn. You know that those Democrats told you that they were going to hold bad government accountable, and then they put Joe Biden as their presidential pick, and Kamala Harris.
Can you call him Joe Biden right now? I think he doesn't know who he is.
Oh, yeah, whatever he's calling himself at the moment. And Kamala Harris, one of those brutal prosecutors.
Oh, yeah, that's a scary one.
One of the ways that we have gotten so many endorsements from Black Lives Matter and other police accountability groups has because we went there. We didn't water down our message. We didn't say, anything that isn't what libertarianism is. We just said flat out, you know that it's the people that have made this, that have created these things, that are the ones pandering to your votes. You know when they get into office, they're not going to do a damn thing. At best, they'll put on a kente cloth and kneel in the Capitol Hill building like Nancy Pelosi did, but they'll do absolutely nothing to help you. They don't like government any more than anyone else.
The Democrats really like to have visuals and a message.
Yeah,
it's an emotional part.
Yeah, it's emotional, performative stuff. And Donald Trump has taken that same kind of populism to the right now.
Yeah,
it's now built around these images of safety and protection.
Yeah.
When he's pushed what? Bigger government, more debt, more spending, more wars, more taxes, everything, more infringements on your right to keep and bear arms. Bump stock bans, suppressor bans, red flag laws that he's trying to get. He's actually using federal agencies to pressure states to pass red flag laws.
Trump lost me. I was indifferent before, let's be honest. But he really lost me when he put the bump stock ban in because I don't like the idea of any law being signed from that mess. Any law. I don't care what it is. I don't care if he says Q-tips have to be this big around on the end. I don't care. He should not.
It doesn't matter. He shouldn't be doing that. And what did he just do? He just mandated a spending plan on unemployment, and he mandated how the states would spend it. This isn't just writing a law. He wrote a budgetary obligation from the White House with no congressional authority at all, with no congressional oversight or authorization or anything else. Going back to the bump stock ban and the suppressor ban and the red flag laws, let's be very clear. The Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Period. It does not say it's okay if the states do it. It doesn't say it's okay if a politician you like does it. It didn't say it's okay if there's an emergency. It didn't say any of that.
And it doesn't say this anywhere in this sentence. The right to bear this arm.
No, it's the right to keep and bear arms. And the founders were clear enough to know that technology would change, which is why they didn't even say guns, they said arms. Your ability to arm yourself as you see fit to protect yourselves and your loved ones and your neighborhoods and communities is sacrosanct and should be treated as such. Let's be very clear. Here's what common sense gun control should be. Common sense gun control should be Americans armed with whatever they feel like owning, deciding what the government should be allowed to have. That is what was intended, and that is what libertarians will bring.
Amen to that.
I like it.
So, Spike, you have a campaign. I almost want to end
Letter. You got to get any better?
You got to tell us about the Let Her Speak campaign that you're running right now. We can't get you guys into the debate unless XYZ occurs. You're trying to help make that happen.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Let Her Speak is actually a completely grassroots movement. We actually have, other than promoting it and saying, hey guys, look at this fantastic thing people are doing, that's something that emerged from the grassroots. And it is basically the idea that we all know that if you put Joe Jorgensen in between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, who can barely form a coherent sentence between them, who are emblematic of every bad thing to come out of D.C., and you put between them a brilliant self-made entrepreneur who will just completely dismantle both of them. You put me between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. Mike Pence, who occasionally pops his head out to make sure that no one's said anything about him, and then goes back away. And then Kamala Harris, one of the most brutal enforcers of the police state that we've ever seen in recent memory. I think that we win that hands down, and the media knows that we win that hands down, and that's why they're doing everything they can not to include us in the polls. A little bit of backstory here. In order to get to the debates, the Commission on Presidential Debates, which is the cartel that the Republicans and Democrats own that control the presidential debates, they have a criteria. In order to be able to be included in the debates, you have to get 15% or more in, I think, 5 opinion polls. And then they don't include anyone but the Republicans and Democrats in the opinion polls because they're not required to. Now, there have been polls where other or name not listed have gotten more than 15%. There was actually one poll where I think 23% of Americans said they didn't want Trump or Biden. What do you want to bet if they were putting our names on there that we'd be easily getting that 15%? That we'd have people who didn't even know who we were saying, yeah, there's a third option. Okay, I'll go with them. They don't want us on the stage. Why? Because the crony corporate media is owned by 6 multinational trillion-dollar companies who have a vested interest in keeping their sponsored Republicrats in office so that the Federal Reserve gravy train that hands them trillions of dollars a year of your money that you have to pay back with interest never ends. They know that when libertarians get into office, that when Joe Jorgensen is in the White House, that when everyone running up and down the ballot in all 50 states plus D.C. as libertarians get into office, their gravy train is over, and they can no longer live off the backs of the American people.
Let me tell you my favorite thing about Joe. I heard, I think I heard it through you on your podcast, or applying for Social Security. Mm-hmm. And it just got hard. When she's going to sell off government land, everyone gets paid back what they put in, and then it's their responsibility to manage their lives. And I love it.
There are ways to deal with things by dismantling things that government should have never owned. The Constitution is clear on what the government should own: armories, military bases, Washington D.C., post office, postal roads, whatever postal roads are. There are no such thing anymore. There are just roads now. Pony Express Road. So there are none anymore, so they don't donate.
In courts.
And federal buildings. Not 80% of Montana, of Utah, it's what, 81% of Nevada, 75% of Utah? Why?
Yeah.
Is Utah just a bunch of federal buildings and postal roads crisscrossing each other? No. Why are they owning it? Because they can. They shouldn't. There's no reason for it. Those are assets.
Well, Nixon had to write that in. He had to sell us somehow. He took gold away from the international market, so he had to take ownership of anywhere where.
take
People
ownership
want
of the whole thing. Yeah, yeah.
So we are backed currency. We're just backed with the land you stand on.
We have currency that's backed by threats and war.
Yeah.
We have petrodollars that are financed by if you use anything else, we'll invade your country and destabilize your government and bomb you and make your children fear.
Saddam would argue with you. We don't need to get into conspiracy theory. That's my other show.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, I think we're. I don't know. I love the message. I do.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you, man. That means a lot to me, and I appreciate y'all coming out here. So it's funny story. I was in Tooele earlier today, and everyone's going, it's Tooele. Like, how do you know this? I said because it was actually on a show called Tooele, and I forgot that it was happy hour. And I was like, Tooele is something, and I remembered the two of you, and I'm like, I was on a show called Tooele something. And because we went to Tooele, we were actually able to see the Great Salt Lake on the way down and on the way back. Yeah, it is absolutely beautiful. This is a beautiful, beautiful state. I mean, we've only been here for 1 day, but just what we've seen. I live in a place. It's a swamp that is, measured in inches above sea level. It's a beautiful swamp with a beautiful ocean and beach there, but Myrtle Beach. But this is great. These mountains. I was blessed to see the Purple Mountains majesty for myself. So that very brief period of time during that last little bit of sundown, when the mountains glow purple from the sun getting just right.
The brine flashes the sunlight purple.
It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, and it lasts for like 5 minutes. It was great. I turned around and I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. And I took it in and I was taking pictures with everyone at the Capitol steps, and I took 2 pictures, looked around, it was done. So I'm glad I turned around, but I really appreciate you guys coming on my bus, and I really appreciate you having me on Tooele Happy Hour again. And
anytime you want to come on,
absolutely.
The invitation's open. We'll fire up the computers and roll on anytime.
And we'll get that camera facing the right way.
Yeah.
You did good.
They should hear about that.
Yeah.
Dave started that. Usually I'm the technical.
I won't make any excuses yet.
But thank you guys again.
Hey, thanks for coming to Utah. Thanks for getting the message out there. That's the big thing. You're getting the libertarian message out in a big way. It's going everywhere. And I'm just hoping to see that the libertarians take it on.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Folks, if you like what you heard today, I ask you to go to joe20.com. That's JO20.com. We have a volunteer form that you can fill out. We'd love to have you join our team. If you're able to make a contribution, we'd greatly appreciate that. And if you're at any of the stops I'll be doing, I invite you to go to my social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. But on my Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and also on joe20.com, you can keep track of the events, the places I will be at. I'm trying to visit as many of the 50 states as possible. If I'm anywhere near where you are, I'd love to meet you in person. And I appreciate you tuning into Tooele Happy Hour, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, thank you.
You know how to shut it off.
And then you got to see
Shut that off.
HD and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Just press.